Vice President Vance is back in Washington, D.C. after leading those high-stakes talks with Iran and Pakistan this weekend. Iran, as we know, refused to make a deal to end the war. The vice president has this to say after those marathon negotiations.
We've been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms.
And the vice president says he also presented one final offer to Iran, including the administration's red lines. And on the list, ending all uranium enrichment, dismantling all major nuclear enrichment facilities, and there are many in that country, U.S. retrieval of highly enriched uranium, a broader peace and security framework which would include regional U.S. allies, ending funding for terrorist proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis in Yemen, and fully opening the Strait of Hormuz with no tolls for passage. Of course, they didn't take that deal, and now they don't have any control over the Strait of Hormuz as of an hour and 19 minutes ago. Congressman Mike Lawler, Republican of New York, member of the Foreign Affairs and Financial Services Committees. Great to have you in the program. I want to ask you about the pressure that you know of from the committees that you sit on economically on Iran right now, because that always gets everybody's attention.
Well, look, Harris, this has been one of my chief priorities as a member of Congress, passing sanctions bills, targeting Iran's illicit petroleum trade, primarily with China. We have put in place numerous sanctions over the last few years, and President Trump has enacted those sanctions, crippling the regime's economy and basically taking away their ability to fund their nuclear ambitions and their financing of terror compared to the Biden administration, which allowed hundreds of billions of dollars to flow to Iran. So, you know, when you take the sanctions coupled with the administration's move to blockade the Strait of Hormuz and not allow Iran's oil to flow out, that is going to have a devastating impact on the Iranian regime and their ability to do much of anything. So the red lines that were outlined by the vice president are very clear. They are non-negotiable. The fact is the highly enriched uranium does need to be removed from Iran. The Strait of Hormuz does need to be fully reopened without any Iranian tolls. And ultimately, their financing of terrorism must come to an end. These are clear red lines that I and many others have supported for years. And I think President Trump is the first president to actually take action and follow through on these red lines.
You mentioned the president. I want to get to this because it's on this topic of oil. The president talked about the ongoing conflicts on oil prices in general over the weekend. Watch this.
Do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. It could be or the same or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same. I think this won't be that much longer. They're wiped out.
Look, you're in Congress. You're watching the midterm elections coming pretty fast forward in our front view right now. How would, you know, oil prices about what they are now or a little bit higher affect the job that Republicans need to do to retain the House?
Well, look, the number one priority is to address the affordability crisis and the cost of living. It's why we passed the Working Families Tax Cut Act and produced the largest tax cut in American history, putting more money back in the pockets of Americans. But oil prices are critical, and we want to bring them down. Prior to this incursion, oil prices were below $3 a gallon. For the first time in 5 years. We want to get back to that as quickly as possible. And it also is why not being reliant on foreign governments for our energy needs is critical. It's why we must increase domestic production of oil and gas in this country. It's why we need nuclear power. I've called to rebuild and reopen Indian Point in New York, in my district, because we have to bring utility costs down. You look at a state like New York, Harris, since 2019, utility costs have risen 58%. New York and California have some of the highest utility costs in the country because of their disastrous policies. We are working to bring this down. Obviously, there is some short-term volatility because of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. As the president is saying, it's going to come to an end rather quickly. We have decimated Iran's ballistic missiles capability, and that is vital to ultimately getting this conflict to an end.
Yeah, I bring it up. The president's already in office. I mean, if you have Republicans that are not going to be in office because gas prices go up and things aren't what they were even just a couple of months ago, that becomes something that is a talking point out for every Republican at that point, whether you are running or not. Somebody's got to be at your side on the stump to meet that issue with something. You talk about affordability. That's why I ask about it. Now, it could be that prices come back down, depending on how this goes with Iran. But I didn't want to let that slide by. It's a lot of work ahead of everybody right now, and we're still in a DHS shutdown. So I hear you. I want to get to the story about Catholic nuns. This is unbelievable, and it's happening in your own state. Catholic nuns in New York who care for dying cancer patients, free of charge, could face jail time. It's all over their refusal to follow the state's radical gender identity law. And now they are suing Governor Hochul. And they say the law forces them, these nuns, to go against their faith with requirements like these. Assign rooms by gender identity, not biological sex. Allow access to opposite-sex bathrooms. Use preferred pronouns, and train staff on gender ideology. These are nuns. One sister told Fox News, quote, New York's gender ideology mandates not only violate our Catholic values, this is why we were forced to go to the court to seek protection of our religious exercise and freedom of speech so that we can continue our ministry to the poor. We are consecrated religious sisters and have one mission. It is to provide comfort and skilled care to persons dying of cancer who cannot afford nursing care. This is unbelievable, Congressman.
No question about it, and I support our nuns. The Dominican sisters have done a phenomenal job throughout the Hudson Valley and throughout my district. And this facility, Rosary Hill, is located in my district. And they are fighting for their religious freedoms, their First Amendment rights. But these are sisters who are providing critical care to dying patients. And they are simply seeking to be able to practice their faith as they do so. I think, the state of New York obviously has passed numerous laws in recent years that has infringed upon religious freedom. Not just on this issue, but on many others, and sought to, frankly, preclude those who practice their faith from being able to do so in many ways. So I think the sisters are ultimately going to be successful, most likely in federal court. I would imagine, given how New York Democrats have rigged the state court system, they will probably lose in state court. But I do think, based on numerous Supreme Court rulings in recent years, they will be successful in federal court because they do have religious freedom in this country, and they should be allowed to practice their faith as they apply, treatment and care to those who are dying.
And don't have the money to go to the doctor and treat their cancer. I mean, so that is really uplifting. So you think they can win in federal? And I would think that this would have implications nationwide, because this isn't the only place where these laws exist like this. Congressman, it's always great to have. Oh, go ahead. Final thought.
No, I'd just say no question. And I do think they will be successful in federal court. I think the Supreme Court will rule in their favor ultimately.
Congressman Lawler, thank you very much for being in focus.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Falkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.